I just want to challenge you a little bit and just take 1 minute or two, turn to your neighbor and think about the following question. From your experience, when was collaboration with other people, could be personal, could be private, could be business, could be professional, could be at the university, when was it fun, invigorating, really like cool? Take 1 minute, turn to your neighbor, and then I'm going to ask you for just one sentence. Okay, let's keep that in mind, because I think it was great the way Steve showed, what is a big change system, and that change system needs to turn into a collaboration system. Not everybody needs to work with everybody, of course, but in order for people to collaborate towards a certain joint outcome, there need to be this invigorating atmosphere. Does anybody have you ever been exposed to an interministerial working group? Anybody has ever been? Yeah? So, does it have this invigorating feel to it?
No.
Okay. So there is collaboration, and I'm passionate about collaboration that works, and I know collaboration works between different stakeholders if these different elements that you've mentioned are present. What I'm developing is a learning approach, how we can get this invigorating atmosphere into our collaboration, and yet at the same time be rational about the outcomes and be realistic and viable about the outcomes. So that's why I call it the collective leadership approach as a fractal to large systems change. And I've been particularly, and some of us, but these are kind of particularly my references, involved in global or international, but sometimes also local, stakeholder collaboration initiatives that had certain topics. That could be water, that could be standards, that could be sustainable coffee, sustainable cocoa, sustainable textiles, etc. And I can promise you it wasn't easy, but it was also fun. So obviously, if you think about large systems change, that quote from Einstein is valid. So any sustainability challenges that we're dealing with, they are actually a result of a fragmented way of thinking. And what Steve suggests is also to say, can we take it one level up and kind of defragment the thinking so that we can defragment the action? In my experience, I've, let's say, seen that most of the complex challenges that we're dealing with, energy systems are one, sustainability standards are something else, sustainable forestry is something else, have certain features: complexity, interdependence, and urgency. And that is a big challenge because let's say the traditional reaction to complexity is not to create such a web crawl as Steve. Steve is good at enduring complexity, but the traditional approach to complexity is please reduce complexity, coordinate, control, and put things into boxes, or kind of go towards some simplification. So in a way, we all have kind of increase our ability to suffer through, to suffer through complexity. And so the answer to complexity is definitely not simplification. It is complexity. So we need a complex approach. There's just no way out. But can we kind of live with that complex approach? And so the answer to complexity is a patterned approach. And I think the web crawl that you showed was quite a good example of how we can avoid going into coordination. That's also what you said. But into seeing what are the patterns that are already available, and look, what are the patterns that work and what are the patterns that actually don't work, and then start it from there. The answer to interdependence, of course, is a networked approach. And that is also, I think, was quite visible in your presentation and in the work that Steve is doing. And the answer to urgency is tapping into the human heart. And I found it quite interesting that some of you said, if I'm personally involved, if there is something emotionally enticing. So it is tapping into the human heart. And that would be my question to Steve. If you look at the web crawl and the big change system, what gets people going? So what's the issue that they get up in the morning and say, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to contribute. I'm sure I can make a difference. I can't make the difference by myself. I need to get other people into collaboration to make a difference. All three approaches require well-functioning collaboration among a wide range of stakeholders, institutions, and they all come from different walks of life. But in my experience in multi-stakeholder processes, it took sometimes 3 or 4 meetings over a period of one year that I would be talking to Steve, although like he's coming from Greenpeace, and you can even look how he's his clothes, and I'm normally not talking to this person, and then after 3 meetings I think actually he's a nice guy. So, and that takes time. It also requires checks and balances. When we talk about collaboration, we not necessarily go very far with what is theoretically right, and that's why I mentioned the interministerial working group. There's lots of collaboration around. We do collaborate, but do we collaborate in a way that gets us going and gets us going faster to better solutions? And it needs to be built, in my view, on human competence, not on the deficits, but on what is already there. So it's also about discovering what we actually can do, what we already know, and build on that competence. This is what the collective leadership compass is about, and is a compass that is derived from about now 20 years of working in multi-stakeholder collaboration, and from identifying what we kind of in our traditional thinking would call success factors, that are factors, if they are present, then there is a higher likelihood that in the middle of that room is an invigorating energy and people start contributing. Sometimes that can be as little as people who had been fighting during a meeting because they have so absolutely different opinions on how to go forward, finally, towards the end of the meeting say, but I've got an idea, and I also know so-and-so, and they can also contribute, and you start feeling that shift in energy when people start collaborating. So why this is important, it isn't just kind of another workshop method or something that we need to learn to kind of be more harmonious, because multi-stakeholder collaboration is not about harmony. It is about kind of navigating differences into a progress that is in the end better for all, but there will be very, very different opinions of how to get there. In my view, it is extremely important that we see, if we think about change systems and we think about collaboration systems, that we redefine leadership into the capacity of a collective to actually work towards change and jointly work towards change. The collective leadership compass has 6 dimensions, and it is a diagnosis tool, it is a process methodology, and it focuses on invigorating and a kind of an invigorating effect on a group of people or a group of institutions, but institutions are made up of people, and there are always people involved. It is you can say a fractal of the competence that actually needs to happen in a collaboration system. Are you familiar with the term fractal? Yeah, more or less. A fractal, let me just kind of make it in a nutshell. A fractal is, self-similarity of systems? Probably you're familiar with that. So it means that if I create a good collaboration system between 5 people from 5 different organizations, it will have an effect of how the institutions will work with each other, and it will have an effect on how even other people who are not part of the 5 people will work together. So I can also say, if I want a large collaboration system like the change system you showed, if I want to help them work together in a different way, I can start with small fractals of better collaboration ecosystems in different places, and that will have an effect how the system will work together in the end. So I'd like to, there are derived from 20 years experience, but also from quite a bit of research in systems theory, complexity theory, quantum physics, living system theory, not forestry management, I must admit, but a lot of development cooperation and also leadership development, and cross-checked with the multi-stakeholder collaboration settings that I've been working in. It's clear that we need to attend to the joint presence of certain dimensions. And I'm just going to skip this. And we need to pay attention to the presence of all these 6 dimensions in order to get going. And this is just an example from one of our workshops where it is about developing from a fragmented, we call it a fragmented ecosystem where people do not collaborate, into a collaborative ecosystem. And it starts with who we are. The me stands for who are we to intervene into a certain system. It's about preparing for collaboration, formalizing collaboration, implementing and evaluating, and then scaling up. And in all these different phases, we need to attend to the 6 dimensions of the collective leadership compass. So it can be used for strengthening individual leadership competence, but also for a team, for an organization, for a collaboration system. But you could also look with the compass at a large systems change, like the electricity change system, or we are currently working in Tunisia in water development, etc. And it is about invigorating, bringing in that invigorating energy and a higher level of self-organization. Just quickly going through the different dimensions. It is the 6 dimensions are future possibilities, engagement, innovation, humanity, collective intelligence, and wholeness. And if I stay there, then each of the dimensions has 3 aspects, and the 3 aspects have 3 descriptions. So there's quite a bit of possibility also to locate myself, because what future possibilities means on my individual leadership may be something entirely different what it means if I talk about an energy change system. So, but it is still the same principles of future, you called it visioning, the future possibilities must come in. Future orientation can be an attitude, but it can also be a very, very clear procedural process to turn towards the future. Empowerment can also be an attitude, a personal attitude, but it also has a kind of the aspect of self-organization and democratic processes. And decisiveness is important as an element of focus, but also in large systems of monitoring. Engagement is something we talk about definitely when we talk about collaboration. It's about how to get people on board. There are systematic processes. We've developed one. I'm sure there are many others. They are also kind of known in the world. Connectivity is extremely important, because that was an interesting element that you mentioned. The moment people came together, and the fact that you created a space, you created a possibility for a connectivity that wasn't there before. And even if people had been searching the internet, probably they wouldn't have found each other. It is the extremely important success factor is collective action. I think that was mentioned here. If you get things done together, even if it's small, tiny things, then that gets people to collaborate further, because everybody wants to see results. We are, in a way, we thrive on achievement, even if it's small. But if the achievement is a joint achievement, it's just a much better feeling for most people. Innovation has the aspect of creativity. That the question is, how do we bring in a different quality of interaction in terms of bringing in new ideas that haven't been there before? Very difficult in interministerial working groups. And excellence shouldn't be underestimated, because it's about mastery. It's about also making sure if I don't have the knowledge do I need to bring somebody in who has a better knowledge on a certain issue? And agility refers to venturing into the unknown, to risk-taking, and to be able to learn from crises and actually turn crises into opportunities. Humanity is a broad term, and I was wondering, was it in the Young Leaders program? Somebody said, but actually humanity should be at the center. Yeah, that's right. Yes, and it is, I've developed it as one dimension.
It's the basis.
It is the basis in a way, yeah. So mindfulness is extremely important. It's, again, a personal issue, but it's also you can have awareness of who else is in the room and how they, or who else is in the change system and how they act. Balance is certainly underestimated in most of our work-life non-existing balances, maybe with you, but in my generation. But it is also like, how do we balance in multi-stakeholder collaboration task and content with process or with encounter and human-to-human relationships. Empathy is clear as the ability to step into the shoes of others. Collective intelligence has the aspects of dialogic quality, and that is our ability to be in a conversation, and that may be here in the room, but it may also be virtually, or that may be through, even IT-based conversations. But it is I think that was, you were saying listening, like if people feel listened to, it is a very, very important element that needs to come in. Diversity is not just simply gender diversity or race diversity, but it's the question, how do we bring in deliberately different perspectives? We're trying this at the moment with, it was mentioned that we just kind of created a new initiative that's called the Potsdam Initiative, where we want to bring in people who are in large systems transformation and systems thinking, but come from very different schools of thought. It's not easy, but it's about bringing in that diversity. Iterative learning is what are the cycles of learning that we actually bring in. And wholeness is about contextuality. That would be if I was in Steve's large electricity change system, I would be deliberately saying what's me in the context that I'm acting in, and how do I actually need to relate to other actors. It's about mutual support, because that is a very, very crucial point in accelerating collaboration. The moment in a room of people, if people get out of competition, even if they are not of the same opinion, but say, gosh, I've written a book, why don't you read that? Or, I know somebody who could actually help you. Then the energy completely changes. And contribution is also a personal aspect, but it's also a larger aspect. What's the contribution of our change system to the world, or of my organization to the change system, or of me to the system that I want to see? That is the future. Some of you may recognize that this is the compass. And we are currently in the process of developing a diagnosis and action tool around the compass that can be then used on the individual level, on the team level, on the organizational level, on the collaboration system level, but also for large systems change. And I'm in a conversation with a few young IT architects in Berlin. So it is about developing apps so that you can also use that. Use kind of locate yourself in the compass and use it and create a community of people who would then say, okay, so what does mindfulness for you mean? And how did you go about process quality, etc. So that's the future. It's a framework that integrates all systemic levels of collaborative change. It's a patterned guiding structure. It's not prescriptive action. It's a pattern guiding structure that enhances self-organization. A tool that combines rational decision-making with intuitive sense-making. A dynamic model. If you start at future possibilities, it will have an effect on wholeness and humanity. And it is an appreciative approach because it always starts with what's already there, with the competences that are already there. Thank you. So why is the topic of relationships so important, the topic of collaboration so important for sustainability? We can see sustainability challenges as systems failure, and then many people do that. That's perfectly all right, because it's all about issues. However, it's human beings who actually drove systems to fail, and it's human beings who can make a change. So in the future of addressing sustainability challenges, it is about us being able to think together in a different way, to interact together in a different way, and to shift the way we co-create in a more conscious way. So that's why collaboration and relationship building and relationship management is not a side issue in sustainability and overcoming sustainability challenges, but it is at the core. Only if we become more aware of what we do, how we do it, how we interact, and how we actually can change the way we can make use of the human potential in thinking, in diversity, in knowledge diversity, in the way we act, etc. Only if we can make use of that potential, we actually have a chance to overcome sustainability challenges.